Yo, what's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome back to another deck profile. Been a little while since we've done one of these. I'm going to bring you guys my red-green Clash of Fates Goku deck from the Monday gameplay you guys were asking about. Hope everyone had an awesome new year. I can't believe we're in 2020. Man, this year of Dragon Ball is going to be so sick, and we're kicking it off with this deck profile. Before we get into the video, guys, if you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. Hit that bell so never miss a video. If you want to buy any cards you see in today's video, make sure you use my link down below, TCG Player or Beer Collectibles. And finally, guys, we want to see you guys at the Daily Mac Tournament of Power. It's going to be one of the best events ever, biggest event of the year, and I know that my team is going to do that. I believe in my team. I believe in this tournament, and we want to see you guys there. So make sure you check that out down in the description below. And one more quick thing before we get started with this video, guys. I want to talk about the format as a whole a little bit. I'm a firm believer that in this format, you can play any deck that you're truly proficient with and see a lot of success. Now, of course, there are bad matchups. Of course, there are matchups that are very, very unfavored for your deck. There are a lot of decks I wanted to play this format that have a really hard time beating Baby. And while I think Baby is the most oppressive deck in the format to a degree, I don't think it's anywhere near tier 0 like Hurrigan Storm used to be or SS3 used to be, anything like that. But I do want to say that I think if you're very proficient with a deck this format, I think it'll pay dividends for you. And I want to say that moving into this Clash Coup deck profile, because I see a lot of people saying online that like, oh, this format is dice roll, this format is triangle, this format is just based on whatever you get paired up against. It's too diverse. And I see the argument for it. I really do get it. You know, sometimes you will get paired up against your bad matchup, but I really do think there is a lot of outplay to a lot of the matchups in the format. Even if it's unfavorable, I don't think that means you will always lose it. I think there is a lot of room for player skill to come in, and I'm going to talk about that in this Clash Coup deck profile. A little bit of, you know, how this deck beats other decks in the format. I'm going to give you guys a pretty in-depth breakdown. I try and do that as much as I can, and I'm going to try and do it again here today. So that being said, red-green Clash Coup, I had it in the gameplay on Monday. Now, I think Clash Coup has pretty much like determined itself as the best red-green leader if you're playing just like red-green good stuff. People were playing Yamcha there for a while, and having access to Denial of Hope is really good, but even Preemptive Strike has proved to be really strong in a format like this where there's just a lot of value 4-drops like Piccolo Assimilated Ability, the Baby Arrival, things like that. Focus Breakthrough is one of the best mini counterplays out there because it hits 3-drops or less. That's almost all the counterplays out there. It hits Topo, and it sends them to the drop area. Unlike a card like Absolute Release Ball, it just puts it back in their hands. So I think Clash Coup is just the best leader for this deck. Also gives you access to Overwhelm if you want to run that. Gives you the best way to run Kaioken Goku. So that being said, let's hop into the main deck. So of course in set 8 we got a ton of amazing red-green support, and you're seeing that max out in this deck. For Chi-Chi Motherly Majesty, this card says when you have 2 red-green energy and you combo with it, you draw a card. This is literally just a 5k super combo in a red-green deck. Helps with Arrival, and that's really what red-green tries to do. It tries to abuse Arrival because their Arrivals are honestly some of the strongest in the game, and I think this deck is really well rounded. We saw this deck have a lot of success in pre-set 8 format, and now I know a lot of decks got introduced in set 8. Obviously you have Vegeta Baby, you have Beerus, you have 21, things like that, Hachiyak. But this deck got a ton of support, as you can see in this profile, so it stands to reason that this deck has a lot of potential moving forward in the rest of this format. Come the new expansion cards in a few weeks, I think this deck can do a lot. I think there's so many decks out there right now that can do a lot in this format that people just aren't playing. And like I said, you'll have bad matchups, you'll have certain things that are really tough to overcome, and that will probably be Vegeta Baby. But I do think this deck can do a pretty good job against that deck, and I'll talk about that as we go through the profile. The number one card that is going to help you against Vegeta Baby, like I said, possibly the most oppressive deck in the format, Topo Righteous Aid. Now, this might be pretty obvious, but I mean, this is Red's saving grace against Baby, because on your turn 2, and they're going for their turn 3 win condition, if they didn't establish an ape beforehand, or even if they did establish an ape beforehand, if you just drop Topo Righteous Aid into their turn 3 attack, they're not going to want to waste the cards because they're going to have to swing more times to Arrival more babies, and then they're going to have to drop their whole combo, and that requires them to attack. And Topos and attacks their hand. So if you can just stock up on all the Topos against Vegeta Baby, that's going to be really helpful for you in the long run. Moving on to the red-green package, the 4 Broly Demonic Origins, your free energy. We have 1 Champa Beerus Capricious God and 4 Super Saiyan Blue Gogeta Resonant Explosion. So you could almost look at it as like 5 copies of Gogeta. I think Champa Beerus is like a slightly worse version of Gogeta. Now, Champa Beerus can pop a lot of bigger things than Gogeta can in terms of energy cost, but The thing with Champa Beerus is like giving the double strike to other battle cards can be very awkward sometimes. Like if we had a big crit beater in this deck, I could see it, but we really don't. And a lot of the stuff already has inherent double strike. If this thing gave it to the leader, that'd be really cool, but it doesn't. So it's kind of like the 5th arrival card. And for those reasons, I think Gogeta is a little bit better. It kind of hurts that Gogeta can't be spammed during the same turn. But the really cool thing is you just arrival it on offense, pop a guy, swing with it, get pressure. You arrival on defense, pop a guy, defend yourself, and then it's pressure back in the opponent's next turn. And a card that makes those arrivals really easy, Raditz, Arrival of the Invader. This card becomes a free 5k combo if you have a red-green energy charged, and that just means all your arrivals basically cost 1 card. Likewise with Chi-Chi, when you combo her and a green, the red Chi-Chi replaces itself, so you're really only comboing the green away for that arrival. So this deck is just all about cheap arrivals. You keep a good hand size in this deck because your arrivals are so undercosted, unlike other colors. So that's really one of the main things this deck has going for it, and that's one of the main ways you're going to be aggressive in this deck. If you need to be aggressive against something like Beerus or some other slow deck like Hachiak, this is what you want to do. You want to be arrivaling these guys for cheap, keeping your hand size up, and hitting for big numbers. Especially against something like Hachiak, you can't necessarily swing with a whole wide board, so what you're going to want to do more of the time is swing for bigger numbers. And it's nice to have Chi-Chi as basically super combo 5 through 8 to be able to swing for those bigger numbers. So just a little bit more of a tip and advice for you guys there. Kaioken Son Goku, Defender of Earth. Now, someone brought up to me before that you could just not play Kaioken in general and you could just fully rely on the aggressive arrivals. And I can totally see that. I mean, it's not like Kaioken's like a budget problem because like the regular SR version of the card is pretty cheap right now. But you could go that way because Kaioken, the leader Goku, he really does fuel you up for overrun pretty well. And you'll see in the sideboard I have a few options there where you can just play overwhelms instead. You could play Dimensional Banisher Food for removal. You could play Bardock Awakened Instinct for more draw power. But I really like Kaioken Awakened Instincts in the main deck because it gives you that alternate win condition. You can go low to the ground rush, and there's a few other ways to do that I'll talk about in a few minutes. But you could also go with that Kaioken win con. I even almost want to bump Kaioken to 3 because there are a lot of matchups it's relevant in. Like I said, it can be relevant against Beerus, especially when you have the focus breakthrough to stop their Champa the Trickster. It can be very relevant against Hachiak, where the game is realistically going to go that long and you need that win condition. And like I said with Hachiak, you can't go super wide against them. The leader just doesn't let you do that. So having the Kaioken win condition, getting past their blockers, having ways to remove them from the board, that's going to be really, really beneficial in the long run. Now, of course, you could play the Broly SCR with ways to pop Kaioken, but since this deck doesn't rely on Kaioken so much, I'm playing SS3 Scramble as a secret rare. And really, this guy puts in a ton of work. Like, there's no real way to negate his skills outside of Cold Bloodlust or Frost Deadly Poison, and in certain matchups, you just got to know to play around those, mostly against Broly and Janemba. No other decks are going to be able to negate this guy's abilities, so when he comes down, your opponent's getting burned, and that's really nothing they can do about that, and this guy's going to prevent them from comboing as long as he stays on the board. So 9 times out of 10, when you drop this card and you have other arrivals to back it up, a card like this is really good when you have a board to back it up. Let's say you swing with the leader with double strike or the Gogeta Resonant Explosion with double strike. You drop this guy, you're probably putting them to 1 or 2 life, and then they're restricted from comboing. That's pretty much all she wrote. Extra card lineup, we've got 1 Focus Breakthrough, 4 Shocking Death Ball, 3 Preemptive Strike. Death Ball is one of your main forms of Self-Awaken in the deck. We don't have other Self-Awaken besides Kaioken, so it's pretty important to know when to take life with it when you need to, because not all games you're not always going to resolve Kaioken, and sometimes you will get stalled out, meaning you're not going to be able to do damage to their Awakened leader. So Shocking Death Ball to like protect battle cards sometimes and just to get Self-Awaken is really important. Focus Breakthrough, again, stops Topos, stops Vegeta the Cruels, stops really pesky things that are getting in your way, especially Champa the Trickster. I would definitely sideboard like 1 to 2 more copies of this, depending on what your local meta is or what the format you expect to be. And then 3 Preemptive Strike. I really think cards like Preemptive Strike and Denial of Hope are really, really good like right now. Not so much like You're Wide Open because it just puts it back in their hand and doesn't really answer the problem, but Preemptive Strike hits a lot of good 4-drops like I mentioned before. Baby Arrival, Piccolo Assimilated Ability, other really strong 4-drops in the format. This card's really good. Then we have Super Saiyan Broly Unforeseen Force. This is a card that I don't see too many red-green lists playing, and I'm a really big fan of it. I mean, it's like the Goku Black promo for red-green, and it just puts in work. It lets you fill up your hand size, lets you filter out dead cards, because sometimes you will have an excess amount of 10k combos, and it's board clear. One of the things we're missing in this format right now is a good amount of board clear, and that's one of the other things that red-green brings to the table, like really good board control. I think in this format, and especially in the grindier matchups, if you can control the board via card effects, I think you're going to have a really good time. And he synergizes really well with Beerus Godly Majesty. I'm sure you guys know the combo by now. You have Topo, you negate with Topo, you play Beerus Godly Majesty off the discard. Well, Super Saiyan Broly Unforeseen Force is another way to trigger that discard into play effect. So you just have more synergy with that. Also, Krillin Steadfast Defender, yet another way to trigger Beerus Godly Majesty. Also sets you up for your final showdown Son Goku, which we play 2 of. I gotta shout out Pat O'Neil for this one because obviously it's a Clash Crew deck. It goes in here, but I didn't really think that that red green would really necessarily want to tech into this. But Krillin Steadfast Defender is an amazing consistency card, and final showdown Son Goku answers just about any beater in the game, so it makes no sense why you wouldn't play it. And the Vegeta Sparking Super Combo, again, like I mentioned before, not too much self-awaken in the deck, and you will get stalled out in certain matchups, so having access to the super combo early on, really, really good. A few things I want to mention in the sideboard. You see Baby Vengeance Unleashed. This is a card you can sideboard if your local is like full of 21 or you're just really afraid of 21. This card, even though you can't go into bigger babies because your leader is not a machine mutant, you can still suck up other battle cards for Unit Absorb and then fail to find, and you can just suck up all the tokens. So it's basically a red 1-drop you play, and it means your 21 opponent can't gain card advantage. So that's really, really strong. Another 3-card engine I want to talk about, it would be more than 3 cards if you actually sideboarded it. You have to put a few copies of each, but Dormant Legend, Broly Tragedy Foretold, and Bulma the Problem Solver. So Bulma the Problem Solver dumps Dormant Legend from your deck if you don't happen to mill it with your leader, or like if you don't draw it in your opening hand. And once you have Dormant Legend in the drop area, you can Arrival Broly Tragedy Foretold. And this is one of the only cards in the game, there's very few, that decrease battle cards ignoring barrier. And there's even less that do it during your opponent's turn, which is really pivotal because in certain matchups like Vegeta Baby, where you need to interrupt their Arrival Baby, this is one of the only cards that can do it. If they offensively Arrival and you have the 2 energy and the Dormant Legend in the drop area, this is the card that's going to answer that baby for you. So this is a really good sideboard contention in my opinion. Sideboard's obviously not fully fleshed out. Like I said, there are the overwhelms there you can play if you didn't want to play Kaioken. But there's ideas for you guys to mess around with. But overall with the main deck, I'm a really, really big fan of it. This deck is super fun. I would call it probably my favorite rogue deck this format that I'm playing, and I would strongly recommend it to you guys. But yeah, let me know in the comments below what you guys think about this deck, what you guys are going to mess around with, how you might tweak it. Let me know in the comments below. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time.